Have you ever stopped to think just how far the human body can go? Well, when we talk about Nick Walker, that question comes up almost automatically. Right now, he's one of the most talked about names in bodybuilding worldwide. His size is jaw-dropping, impressive, intimidating, and fascinating all at once. But along with all that admiration comes a huge debate. How healthy can this pursuit of the perfect physique really be? Recently, the conversation got even louder after a public critique from none other than Dr. Thomas O'Connor, better known as the Anabolic Document. If you're not familiar, he's considered one of the top experts in the world on anabolic steroids and in treating retired athletes who abuse those substances. And when a doctor of his caliber speaks up, the community pays attention. The way he did it, though, caught a lot of people off guard. He posted a picture of Nick Walker on social media and used it to spark a heavy discussion about the dangers of hormone abuse. The issue? According to some, the photo was edited, and that really set off people who closely follow Nick's career. That's when things blew up. On one side, you have a seasoned doctor saying Nick Walker could be putting his health at irreversible risk. On the other, you've got fans and friends of the athlete accusing the doc of exaggerating, twisting facts, and even chasing clicks with shock tactics. What started as a medical warning quickly turned into an all-out social media battlefield. And that brings up a tough question. At the highest level of bodybuilding, is there still a clear line between peak performance and self-destruction? What's clear is that, whether people are amazed by Nick's insane size or worried about his health, his name is everywhere. Everyone wants to weigh in, everyone wants a say in the conversation. And honestly, that mix of admiration, fear, and controversy just makes people even more curious about what's really going on with him. When Dr. Thomas O'Connor's post went live, the first thing that stood out wasn't even the caption, it was the image. The photo of Nick Walker looked like it had been through heavy edits, filters, and manipulations. That hit the bodybuilding community like a bomb, because a lot of people saw it as an attempt to make Nick look even more extreme than he already is. One of the first to respond was DTR, a close friend of Nick's. He didn't hold back, accusing the doctor of using a manipulated photo just to grab attention and stir controversy. In his view, that kind of move not only disrespects the athlete, but also cheapens a serious health discussion, turning it into pure sensationalism. And DTR wasn't the only one. Many fans pointed out that, while Nick does have a monstrous, insanely vascular physique, he doesn't show obvious signs of severe health issues, like extreme, uncontrolled acne, that you'd often see in cases of heavy steroid abuse. That led people to wonder, if the photo was that edited, how seriously should the critique itself be taken? The irony is that a lot of people actually agreed with what the doctor wrote. The risks of heavy anabolic use are real, and everybody knows it. The problem is, by tying that message to a distorted image, he shifted the focus away from the main issue. Instead of discussing athletes' health, people were arguing over whether the photo was fake. That poor choice ended up backfiring on the Anabolic Document. The community split in two. Some stressed the importance of the warning, while others accused him of trying to ride Nick Walker's name for views. In the end, his message had educational value, but the way he delivered it caused more noise than real reflection. Still, whenever you look at Nick Walker, the first reaction is always the same. This guy doesn't look human. Standing just 5 feet 8 inches, about 1.72 m, he packs roughly 285 pounds, 130 kilograms, of muscle. He's basically a tank on stage. What's wild is that it didn't happen overnight. This was over a decade of brutal training, strict dieting, and heavy anabolic use to reach this level. His nickname in the bodybuilding world says it all. He's called a freak. That's not an insult in the sport. It actually puts him in the same category as legends like Ronnie Coleman, who also shocked the world with freakish size. And it's not just hard work. Nick's got a rare genetic package working in his favor. He has an incredible natural ability to put on muscle, something very few people can do at that rate. On top of that, his body responds really well to performance-enhancing drugs, making his progress even faster. But maybe the biggest factor is his resilience to side effects. His genetics let him tolerate high doses of hormones without showing as many immediate problems. Put those three factors together, muscle building ability, drug response, and resistance to side effects, and you've got the perfect recipe for elite-level bodybuilding. Honestly, without that combination, even with insane dedication, it'd be almost impossible to hit the level Nick has reached. Because of all this, Nick is now seen as one of the strongest contenders for the Mr. Olympia title. Even though his physique isn't the most aesthetic, he's got that wider waist and a more blocky look. What really blows people away is the overall package. He nails the three things that matter most on stage: size, proportion, and conditioning. And when those three are balanced, the rest is just detail. It's interesting to see how bodybuilding has evolved to reward exactly this kind of extreme look. Back in the day, the focus was more on symmetry and beauty, but in recent years the open division has been all about sheer visual impact. And in that department, Nick Walker is on another level. He might not be the prettiest guy on stage, but he's definitely one of the most intimidating. When people talk about Nick, it's impossible to ignore the big question fans and experts keep asking. How sustainable is a physique this massive? He's already had his share of injuries, yet he still competes at a high level, which shows how well he recovers. But with every new update on his physique, new warning signs also show up, sparking fresh concerns about his health. One of the most talked about things are the varicose veins in his legs and calves. Visually, they stand out a lot and have even drawn aesthetic criticism. From a medical standpoint, they're a circulation issue that could worsen over time. Still, so far, doctors following him say the condition is under control and not in immediate danger. Another detail that got people worried was the change in Nick's skin tone. In some videos and photos, his skin looked grayish or even too red, which can be a sign of high blood pressure and cardiovascular strain. Of course, with more than 285 pounds, 130 kilograms, of muscle packed on a 5 feet 8 inches, 1.72 meters, frame, his heart is already enlarged, something common for open athletes. But visual cues like that fuel speculation. On top of that, some have pointed out signs of early aging in his face. At just 31 years old, Nick already looks more drawn and worn, with features that could pass for someone older. That's normal in bodybuilders cutting down for Olympia prep, where the body is pushed to extreme dehydration and fat loss. Still, when added to other warning signs, it reinforces the idea that the price of peak performance is steep. All these factors feed the ongoing debate about the real risk of early death in bodybuilding. Tragic cases like Dallas McCarver are still fresh in people's minds. That's why many look at Nick and wonder if he might be heading down the same path. But so far, there's no evidence he's on the brink of collapse. The truth is, in the open division, no athlete comes out unscathed. They all deal with enlarged hearts, stressed livers, and altered hormone systems. The difference is in who manages the damage better and for how long. In that sense, Nick has shown impressive resilience, which keeps him among the top contenders on stage, even if he's under fire outside of it. But behind all the muscle and stage presence, there's a human story. In Nick Walker's case, it carries heavy emotional weight. He's publicly revealed that he was sexually abused as a child, a deep trauma that left permanent scars. That confession shocked fans, but also shed light on the intense connection he has with bodybuilding. For Nick, the sport became more than just a career. It was a way to overcome, to find discipline, to channel his pain into something productive. Every brutal workout, every strict diet, every sacrifice seems tied to leaving behind the hurt little boy and becoming the indestructible man we see on stage. It's a portrait of resilience, but also of inner struggle. The flip side, though, is that the very thing that helped him rise can also turn into a cage. Pro-level bodybuilding brings brutal psychological pressure. It's not just the judges' expectations, but also the constant gaze of the media, fans, and critics picking apart every inch of his physique. That never-ending scrutiny can become a heavy burden. And then there's the risk of dependency, not just on the training, but also on the drugs that sustain the perfect look. Bodybuilding, when mixed with heavy anabolic use, creates a cycle that's hard to escape. The athlete sees their body grow, gets recognition, but still feels it's never enough. It's an endless chase for a better version of yourself, one that often comes at a steep mental cost. That kind of psychological pressure ties into an even more extreme issue. Athletes openly saying they'd be willing to die for the Sando Trophy, the ultimate symbol of Mr. Olympia. To outsiders, that sounds unthinkable. But inside the sport, that mentality is way more common than most people realize. For many competitors, eternal glory is worth more than life itself. In Nick's case, the dedication and intensity with which he lives bodybuilding show that he's also ready to risk it all for the title. For some, that's inspiring. For others, it's downright scary. After all, how far is it really worth going? Is it valid to trade years of life for a few moments of glory on stage? That's the kind of question that hits every bodybuilding fan right in the gut. If there's one word that defines Nick Walker's current physique, it's colossal. His latest updates show a body that's veiny, shredded, and practically stage-ready. Every new video or photo goes viral in seconds, because the impression is always the same. It looks like his body is pushing into proportions nobody's seen before. One of the biggest highlights is his back. Those lats are so massive people joke he looks like he's got wings. Add to that his quads, deeply separated and vascular, showing a level of detail only a handful of athletes ever reach. And of course, the whole package screams volume. He's the kind of guy who makes any lineup instantly more intimidating. It's true Nick doesn't have the most aesthetic physique out there. His wide waist and blockier build are always brought up as weak points. But the big thing is, on the Mr. Olympia stage, it's not just about beauty. What really matters are the big three: size, proportion, and conditioning. And in all three, Nick Walker delivers at a high level. That's why he's being compared to legendary champions like Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, and Big Ramy. None of them were known for having the prettiest lines, but they all made history because they stunned people with impact, sheer size, and relentless consistency on stage. Nick seems to be walking that exact same path. And when it comes to prep, it's even clearer he's doing his homework. Every detail of his physique shows he's been bringing up weak points and adding volume where he needed it. It's like every season he reinvents himself, always focused on closing any gap the judges could use to knock him down a spot. The hype is massive because Nick is no longer just another competitor. He's seen as a real threat to the title. Fans track every workout, every physique update, every guest posing, waiting to see if this will finally be the year he takes home the long-dreamed Sando. And from the looks of it, his shot is real. Of course, when you talk about Nick Walker, you can't ignore the elephant in the room: drugs and supplementation. Like every open competitor, he goes way beyond traditional steroids. What really grabs attention is that, according to experts, Nick may also be using new experimental peptides like retatrutide, an evolution of compounds like semaglutide and tirzepatide. These substances were originally designed to treat metabolic issues, but they've quickly made their way into bodybuilding. The reason is simple: they suppress appetite, help burn fat, and improve metabolic control, all crucial for an athlete who needs to hold on to 285+ pounds, over 130 kilograms, of muscle while still showing up shredded and dry on stage. What's wild is that a lot of these compounds are actually sold in the US with the label for research use only, which creates a loophole for them to be marketed without formal approval for human use. In other words, athletes can get their hands on insanely powerful drugs that haven't even gone through full safety testing yet. Inside the sport, this has become pretty common. At the elite level, bodybuilding is a non-stop arms race for anything that might give an edge. Whenever something new pops up that promises faster results, the top athletes are always the first to try it. And Nick, who's laser-focused on becoming #1 in the world, seems to be right at the center of this quiet revolution. But here's the dilemma. Doesn't that make athletes living test subjects? The hunger for glory pushes many of them to overlook long-term risks, accepting the role of pioneers with substances we still don't fully understand. To the public, that can sound like innovation. But for the athlete's health, it's a dangerous game of Russian roulette. Of course, Nick isn't the only one doing this. In the open division, pretty much everyone is experimenting with new mixes of hormones, peptides, and prep protocols. The difference is, in Nick's case, it's way more obvious because he's constantly under the spotlight. As we wrap this up, it's clear Nick Walker's story raises some of the hardest questions in modern bodybuilding. How much is it worth risking your life for a trophy, even if it's the legendary Mr. Olympia Sando? Where's the line between extreme dedication and outright self-destruction? These aren't just questions for athletes, but for all of us who follow the sport closely. Dr. Thomas O'Connor and other experts are right to sound the alarm and push for awareness. But the reality is, in the open division, Every top athlete is living with serious health damage. That's the price of the game. And that's why, when we look at Nick Walker, we see not just risk, but also a phenomenon. Someone who keeps pushing limits and forcing us to rethink what the human body can even achieve. Right now, Nick is seen as a real threat to giants like Derek Lunsford and Samson Dauda at the Olympia. That's why he's viewed as both an inspiration and a concern at the same time. The community is split. On one side, admiration for his monstrous physique. On the other, fear that all this greatness comes with a cost too high to pay. But what about you? What do you think of all this? Is Nick on the path to finally becoming champion? Or will the price turn out heavier than he expects? I'd really love to hear your take, so drop your thoughts in the comments. This space is for us to share ideas and make the debate even richer. And of course, if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss future videos. If you can, consider becoming a channel member. That way, you're directly supporting our work and helping keep this space alive and full of high-quality content for you. Honestly, I hope the next video I make about Nick Walker is to celebrate a victory, an achievement, not another piece of bad news. Because deep down, every bodybuilding fan wants to see their idols shine on stage, not just be remembered for controversies off of it. And before you go, I've got another video queued up on the end screen. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and it'll give you even more insight into this incredible world of bodybuilding. So stick around, and let's keep going on this journey together.